So there is no such thing as equal proportionality. What we contend as an even equal disbursement could be looked at further when we see the powers that be, the people in operation, the names that we know, in particular celebrated trades, sports, or representations that are put or placed before us as an icon of respect. We don't want to believe in the propaganda machine and that it is telling us what to feel based on locality, where we live, or the disparate mechanism of whether or not we are born into some self-denial and a form of poverty. Even the poorest person is going to look for wealth and hoard that wealth and protect it like it is under constant threat, because it's the internal knowing, the gnosis, the expression that you have value, right? And we see that these value systems, so back to my prior thought, is in all those fields there are unknown names of those that had a far greater capacity to take things on to a whole nother level that would have uniformly brought the energies away from capitalist capitalistic expiry and toward a continuous flow through. Bodybuilding is a perfect example. You know, instead of having these short-sighted people representing the pharmaceutical industry, and even more so, a dedicated statement and expression of this is where we are now in the modern use of pharmacon, right? Ephemerally morphologically altering pharmaceutical equipment, because it really is a device that's being used that, like the vampire steroid with when you look at trenbolone, the stuff recombinates from degradation. It comes back together, right? Extensive studies. And so when you look at this, it's this amalgamating expression. Jason Rezzagiorgiani said something really interesting on X, and I only get the alerts. I don't go on X unless an alert that I'm interested in is actually sent. I don't try to push anything on X. I rarely ever go on there. Wouldn't even have ever posted anything on there if I knew what it represented. But that is to say that Jason was talking about how there are plenty of really diabolical, evil people, you know, people who are actually seeking out to do whatever the discourse of representation of. So you could take something that you can go through the action of something that would be on a higher tier, conceivably good. That is this concept of God, Abrahamic God, raining down his wrath on all the terrible sinners, resulting in murderous, catastrophic death and sentencing, but justified under the name of who that person is, how perspicacious and deep and ontologically mind-bending this entity is, right? Or you have the same action done by David Berkowitz, or on a midpoint, Invictus, well, we could say the Unabomber, but we'll say Timothy McVeigh. We'll put that in there, right? And say that's kind of a midpoint where there's somebody trying to, the warping that occurs when somebody is trying to stand for principle and at the same time take a physical action. Because when you get to this physicalist sort of state, you no longer are going under the guise of principle.